Hi Homeworthy, I'm Julie. Welcome to my home in Anaheim, California. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Thank you to Thomasville for sponsoring today's episode.
Hi, I'm Julie Khuu. I am a formally trained certified interior designer, a lifelong Feng Shui practitioner, and I design custom homes for a living. I live in a really beautiful mid-century home. It is located in Anaheim, California. It was built in 1955 by a famous builder, Ross Cortez, who works under another famous builder, Cliff May. He actually worked for Eichler. You'll see a lot of similarities with Eichler homes built in the 1950s. This is my first home. I bought this house almost 10 years ago, and I really fell in love with the architecture of this space. Mid-century ranch homes are known for all of its windows. So when you walk into the home, you're kind of flooded with all of this natural light. I love all of the vaulted ceilings, the beams, the clear story windows. I mean, it's such a charming home, but I knew that there are a couple of things that I had to do to zhuzh it up and really make it my own. Growing up in an Asian household, I literally had Feng Shui masters coming in and out of the house. I had no idea what Feng Shui was when I was younger, okay? All I did was I kind of watched my mom follow these Feng Shui masters around the house. They had like these compasses, and I would follow around with like a little clipboard and I would take notes. I had no idea what they meant, you know? Place, a fire element here, put a water fountain here, and I was like, what does this all mean? And then now in my career, I have been practicing Feng Shui without even realizing it. You know, a lot of Feng Shui has common design sense along with interior design principles. So if you follow the energy, you kind of just design the space so it feels good and it follows Feng Shui principles. Most of the time that aligns with interior design guides as well. We're standing in the entry and it's a very small landing space. So what's important to me is having enough storage here so that it's a place for me to corral everything that I need to get in the house on the go. So we've got like this really cute dresser. This is probably one of my very first purchases. I was very young college student, and I found this dresser on Craigslist for like $300. I mean, mind you, this was like over 15 years ago. So $300 now is probably like maybe almost like double that. But it's got so many cute drawers. I have refinished this dresser like so many times. It used to be white and then it was pink, and now it's this like really beautiful chalky gray, which I love. It houses all of my plants because that's so important. We're actually in the southwest corner of the home, and that is tied to your wealth and money corner if you follow Feng Shui, which I do clearly. So you'll see a lot of plants, you'll see a lot of foliage, not only live plants, but also in pictures and artwork as well. Let's head into the living room. This is a rarity because I just got brand new furniture. I actually wiped out this entire space. You know, you'll see this area. I call this like the kids' room. It usually looks like a daycare in here with kind of toys strewn about. But what I love is my brand new Thomasville rug. It's so cuddly. Right now, my girls are kind of just like throwing their toys everywhere. I used to have a coffee table here. I used to have a love seat here. We wiped out everything, and now we just rolled out this really beautiful rug, and it's perfect because it's just a lot of open space, which I love. At the center of it all, I have these cabinets. The issue for me in this small home was, number one, storage is non-existent, okay? It's a 1955 build. You're not going to get like all of these storage cabinets, all of these like attic spaces, basement spaces, you don't. So pretty much everything that you have in the home has to serve double duty. I have these cabinets here that is not only like my makeshift media console, but it's also hiding more toys, okay? Tell me you have kids without telling me you really have kids. So over here is a really beautiful adult side, okay? So don't get it twisted. We've got a playroom over here, but over here is where the adults come to play. And what I really love about this space is just how open it is. Again, with all of the windows, I actually have a tiny little window on both sides of these bookcases, okay? I do not recommend that you guys close up windows and block natural light, but if you have neighbors that are right next to you, which mine are, I mean, I literally can peek out my window and see them, which means they can see me too. I have covered both windows with these bookcases, okay? So now these bookcases, I just bought them, okay? They were really inexpensive. I want to say they're IKEA. Years ago, which I actually found on Craigslist as well. Okay, so a designer's tip is that anytime you find something retail, always search secondhand. Okay, people are always trying to get rid of their stuff on like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. So I use this bookcase to not only house my books, my design magazines, but it's like my little plant corner as well. My little plant propagation corner. I love this corner because I cycle out all of these plants and you can just watch them grow, and I love that because then I'll be able to place them in and around the home, and this is kind of where they flourished. Let's talk about this sectional. Whew. This is brand new. And this is why I love it. I needed a space for my family to not only like sit and cuddle up, but we needed to have like movie nights on the fly. I'm gonna show you exactly what this guy does and you're gonna be blown away. So this is another Thomasville piece and I love it. It's so soft, it's super firm. I mean, my girls are like bouncing around on this. It's almost like our own built-in trampoline, which I love because it's durable and affordable. But what I really love is that you can just kind of remove all the cushions. These guys come out as well. You pull this whole thing out and it becomes like this huge sunken bed. Talk about Friday movie nights, like that's happening tonight. Let's take a moment to look up. Okay, look at these beautiful vaulted ceilings. This is why I fell in love with the home. You know, a lot of the times when you're just starting out in a first home, you know, this is my first home. After we put that down payment down, it's almost like you have no more money left for furniture, right? But what you can fall in love with is architectural detailing. If you really spend the money with architectural details like your finishes, the ceiling, the flooring, the millwork, that design will really carry you through and it makes you feel like you have to decorate less. You know, I don't have a lot of furniture in this space, but I really am obsessed with all of the finishing. I was able to carve out this low voltage line and I was able to light all of the ceiling beams. So not only do we get this really beautiful wash at night, during the daytime, you have like layers of lighting in the space. And that's what I love for interior design. It really helps your eyes kind of travel around and it doesn't make it feel like boring, you know? When we first bought this home, it was just like a lot of small spaces. You know, they had this partition wall right here and it separated the living room from the kitchen. But for me, it was like, I knew I wanted open concept. At that time, it was just my husband and I living in the home. When we bought the home, he actually surprised me on the day that we got our keys and he proposed to me on that day. It was like, I got a fresh little ring, I got a brand new house. It was such a magical moment. So when we bought the house and I'm kind of like putting on my designer's hat, I was broke. So I had to just come up with these like really creative solutions that was gonna carry me through the line, okay? So we're 10 years into it. All of these finishes have been here for 10 years. And guess what? I still love it. For me, it's like the color palette is so neutral. You start out with like a black and white base. You add in some like really muddy, sandy neutrals, and then you can layer on more color, more pattern, and it will always feel cohesive, which is what I really love. So this play area is newly styled. It usually doesn't look like this. The toys are usually here, but this is why I love symmetry in design, okay? You really can create this visual statement. You know, I've got symmetrical bookcases, but on one side, our adult side feels very elevated. It feels very adult, you know, almost like we're adulting. And then, don't forget that I have 2 little kids, okay? So I love a kind of Montessori-based development style. So I will color code their toys. You know, here's all the reds and pinks, here's the yellows. So they'll know what to put back once they're done playing with it. It's actually really effective. They love it because they're like, oh, you know, the older one will be like, Khalees, you put that in the wrong spot. So she'll take the blues and then, you know, kind of reorganize it so that it's exactly the way that mom taught them. My interior design style is very eclectic. I have a love for like old world glamour. I love modern glamour, but I also like a lot of antiques, a lot of vintage inspired pieces. I'm inspired from all of my travels, so you'll also see a lot of global influences in the space. I love a lot of my antique Chinese pottery. I have a lot of vintage artwork in the space, and at the crux of it all, you'll see that this space is like a maximalist stream. I love color, I love pattern, and I kind of love loading it all in this really beautiful plant-filled bungalow. Now we're moving to the kitchen. Open concepts, you know, if you've never tried it, here's a tip. Keep it as immaculate as possible. I feel like an open concept kitchen like almost keeps you honest. You cannot have things kind of like laying everywhere, especially when you have guests. So for me, I actually love this kitchen because it's got this very easy flow, you know? This is a brand new piece that's not new, it's actually secondhand. So I plopped in this freestanding island because I felt like we just needed more space. But you know what? What I hate is bumping into these corners. So this is a design tip for you. If you have a kitchen and you are wondering whether or not you can fit an island in the space, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take out your measuring tape. I want you to measure 36 inches from the perimeter of your countertop into your kitchen space. The space that you have left over after those 36 inches is the maximum size of your island. Now, if you don't have that clearance, you cannot fit an island. This clearance is probably about like 30 inches on each side, and it's too tight. I know that because I've been living with this for like a few months. And you also have to know when your design sucks, you have to abort and you just need to come up with another creative solution. So for me, I'm actually thinking about custom making another island for this space because I told you guys, I've been living in this house for 10 years, okay? Even though I love it, it's beautiful, I don't feel like it's very designed. So I have the 10-year itch. The before kitchen was atrocious, okay? It was 1955. It was a lot of, obviously, builder grade basic materials. It's like medium grain wood, and they had almost like a U-shaped kitchen that was placed this way. Feng Shui tip, the first thing I did was demo the entire kitchen because the stove and the sink, which are the two most important elements in Feng Shui, fire and water, were at the wrong locations. So I had to remix this entire kitchen layout so that the stove is in the south sector of the kitchen, which is associated with the fire element. And the sink is in the north sector of the kitchen, which is associated with the water element. Another designer's tip is to not have the sink and the stove directly across from each other. I know that's a very Western design. If you're opening up like Pinterest, interior design books, even though I love the look of those kitchens, Feng Shui wise, you're gonna cancel out those elements and it's not going to balance the space and bring that good energy that you want for Feng Shui. So we blasted all of the appliances. I got brand new appliances, brand new cabinets. I have these beautiful granite countertops. A designer's tip when choosing granite countertops is, you know, spend a little bit more money to go with exotic granite. This is exotic granite. It is titanium black. And I love it because not only is it a polished finish, but there's just so much variation in it that anytime I have like a scratch or a ding, or like if I leave wine out and I don't like wipe it right away, it still looks beautiful and you can't even tell. The original kitchen had all upper cabinets here, and it was just horrendous. You know, for me as a designer, not only do I want to design something that's really functional, but I also want a really beautiful space to style all of my home decor items. Clearly, I can't even reach the top, guys, okay? So the top shelf is for like all the pretty stuff, you know, all of my plants, all of my antique vases, all of my decor. And then the second shelf, or the central shelf, is the one that I can kind of grab things and go. The reason why I love open shelving, especially in an open concept home, is that we entertain a lot. I don't want to, you know, stand here and have a guest ask me, hey, Julie, can you grab me a glass? Can you grab me a bowl? I'm like, look, hey guys, it's right here. Grab it yourself. I love that. I want my guests to feel like this is their home too, and I want them to be able to access everything just as they see it. This looks expensive, but I actually went to the lumber yard and I purchased it myself. It was like huge planks of just regular wood. I want to say I bought each ledge for like $50, okay? $50 a ledge. I stained it myself. These brackets are from IKEA, but I love it. It's just like an inexpensive way to showcase your kitchen without the need to shell out money for like upper cabinetry, right? I still have upper cabinets here, okay? So it's strategic. It's probably just like one piece to hide, you know, all the junk, but everything else just feels like a show kitchen, including this chandelier. It's a very mid-century feel, but we're also 10 years in. So even though I love it, I'm just ready for a refresh. I'm ready for a change. I'm ready for more color. I want to see like a backsplash. I want to see more pattern in here. I mean, what colors do you think will vibe in this space? That's a thought. My favorite room in the home always changes, okay? Right now, I'm kind of in this era where I'm raising toddlers. So half of the home looks like a daycare and the other half looks like an adult actually lives here. So I would say right now, my favorite is probably my dining area. We host and entertain a whole lot. So when my tiny home is filled with like a lot of people, I love it. It has this very intimate, cozy vibe, but it holds a lot of people and I kind of love seeing them all gather in my dining room. So now we're heading into the dining area, my current favorite room in the home. Look at my massive dining table, isn't this beautiful? You know, I used to have this rectangular dining table and then, hey, guess what? I had kids. And they would bang their heads on all of these corners. You know, if you take a look back through all of the clips, you'll see rubber stops on every single corner. Like, really, we have kids, okay? So I got rid of a lot of the sharp corners. We replaced them with a lot of round edges. I love that. Round seating, round edges, you know, no hard corners, no sharp corners. If you are short on space, like you see my dining room is very narrow. Instead of plopping like a huge dining table in the middle of a space and not having that clearance to push chairs outside of it, you can install a really beautiful sofa, as I have done. This is actually a vintage piece that I purchased for less than $200. I had half of it reupholstered because I love pattern, you know? So even though I love this kind of like black and white vintage, almost like a damask pattern, I also love my velvets, you know? So I did this kind of like two-tone look. I had them banded with this leather detail. And so now I have this like really beautiful semi-custom piece in the home that really speaks to my aesthetic. You know, we're starting with like a cream, ivory, black, white space. And in order for it to not feel cold and too stark, you want to add in a lot of warm woods. So if you notice the mix of materials on the chairs, we've got like leather, we've got wood. We have repeated those same colors throughout the space. These are symmetrical cabinets that I'm actually using kind of not only to frame out the dining room, but to house, you know, all of my backstock. We entertain a lot, so there's liquor over here, and then I have some of my servingware on the other side. You might be wondering what this little guy is. This, if you've ever walked into an Asian home, they most likely will have an altar. This is an altar that I pray to not only my ancestors, but all of the Buddhist deities and gods that have really blessed me over the years. You know, grandma passed away a couple of years ago, and every time, you know, I burn a candle or I light incense and I pray to her, I really can feel her in the space, and I love that feeling. And you know, bonus points for having like a little night light in the kitchen when I'm coming out here and grabbing a drink at night. let's move on to the lounge. This used to be a home office. They actually had a pony wall that was dividing the dining room from this kind of like office area. And it didn't make sense to me because I wanted to place a really long dining table. My dining table is 10 foot long. So in order to create that dining area, I also had this area that we weren't really doing anything with. And what I love is kind of like that spillage area. You have, guests dining, and once they're done with dinner, they can kind of come over here and have like after dinner drinks or tea time, or even, if the adults are over here, the kids are over here, and I love that. You'll also notice that every single room in this home has a television. Hello, I'm a YouTuber, TV is my life. So I love media, I love entertainment. I love that we're able to, have the kids on one side, the adults on one side. If my husband is watching football over here, the kids can watch cartoons over here. I'm able to see everyone. So in an open concept space, in a small home like this, it's just under 2,000 square feet. That was the intent. That was my design intent the entire time. I knew that I was gonna have a growing family. I knew that I loved to entertain. I knew that I wanted to carve out a space that was going to feel very cohesive as you walk from room to room. I love the idea of having formal rooms, but for me in this era of my life right now with young kids, I like this space. It's just like very open, it's airy, it's bright, but it needs a little bit more design. I've just decorated it in the last 10 years because that's all I could afford. But now that I budgeted for a renovation, I cannot wait to get that started. This is a coffee table that I've had for, I want to say over 15 years. This is another Craigslist purchase. I love this piece because it really reminds me of my time working for Kelly Wearstler. That was actually my first job out of design school. I interned for Kelly Wearstler for a couple months, and that's when my love for Hollywood Regency was born. I love the brass, I love the gold, I love the gilding, I love the glamour. And this is one of those pieces that I feel, even if my style evolves, I'll always have it because it just reminds me of a time that was integral to my career because I was just starting out. This buffet I actually purchased for a design client, and the design client had moved from a huge space to a smaller space, and she no longer could fit this buffet, and that's when I swooped it up. I love that I was able to get something back that I actually handpicked myself so early in my career. This sofa is a secondhand piece, and I love it. It's like this really beautiful, cotton velvet. It's a designer piece, designer materials, and I purchased it at a consignment shop for $299. I've also had this piece for over 10 years. I love my furniture, okay? What can I say? I think when you choose things that you love, no matter how often you move, no matter where you go, you're gonna find a spot for it. I did not design this corner, this lounge area, I knew this coffee table was gonna go here. This is the sofa that I want in this space. Here's the buffet. I didn't. It was collected over time. I kind of piecemealed it together, but it's my style, it's my aesthetic. Therefore, it will always be timeless because I love it. Behold my plant corner, my beloved plant corner. I come here in the morning and I talk to my plants and they make me feel good. And it's I start my morning with intent. I come in and I prune them, I check up on them, I water them, and they just really make me happy. When I first bought this house, this is why I fell in love with all of the windows. I was like, yes, honey, this is where my plants are going to thrive. I am going to be such a plant pro by the time I'm done with this little corner. And I feel like, we're almost there. Let's head to the backyard. This is new. This is another new piece from Thomasville. It looks like just a regular backyard patio sectional, but it's hiding something underneath here, and I bet you'll never guess what it is. Let me show you. I'll show you. It's so freaking cool. Look at this, you guys. This is where my kids are going to spend all summer. Look at this. This is what we need. We need a little projection screen out here. We need a cocktail on the table. I need a band in the corner. This is SoCal summers at its finest. This is a fresh paint job, okay, with fresh sheets. You know, I know you see a lot of those like designer homes, home tours, and they have like these big cushy comforters and bedding. It's just not realistic for me. That's not how I live. That's not how I sleep. You know, it's summertime's coming. So I just want like really soft, silky bedding, even though this is not silk, and it's my favorite sheets. It's Cozy Earth, and it's like this bamboo bedding that's temperature regulated. So my husband is actually, he sleeps hot, I sleep cold, but these sheets are like the perfect accompaniment for both of our like different levels of heat at night. This room has seen so many colors throughout the years. I used to have this like chocolate brown walls with these gold Regency like bed frame bedding. It was like such a vibe in here. And then when I had my first daughter, Kamari, I blew everything white because I just wanted like a blank slate. I was nursing, you know, she's sleeping in here. So I just wanted something really fresh and vibrant. And then after years of living with like white walls, I'm like, get me out of here. So I painted it in a really beautiful green. This is Pharaoh and Ball's lichen, and I also have a Pharaoh and Ball ceiling on top. So it's very cozy, it's very warm in here, it's very moody. But I'm not done with it because I actually left some wallpaper samples up on the walls that I'm hoping you guys can help me with, okay? I'm going for this obviously layered vibe. I like a very old world aesthetic, almost like granny chic, granny fab. You know, I feel like Grandma Julie is really gonna appreciate a layered room that's washed in color, especially something with like a sagey green. But what do you guys think of these looks? You know, it's kind of like vine on green with like a little bit of a lighter wash. You know, Heidi Kaye, she's actually one of my favorite current designers. She washed her bedroom in kind of like this muddy, really beautiful, like muddy, dusty rose color. And I'm kind of obsessed with that. But I also love this chalky color. You know, this is design, you guys. Analysis paralysis is real. But one of the things that I did know that I wanted was a really beautiful statement art piece in the home. This was my first trip to Round Top, Texas. That was like bucket list dream for me. I was like, one day I'm gonna head to Round Top. I'm gonna, you know, antique shop my heart out. And I found this really beautiful print. This is on a vegetable vellum. That's what they call it. I think it's on kind of like a papyrus. So it's just a sheet. I pulled out this whole scroll sheet and I was like, yes, honey, I have to have it. And this is before I even painted the room. So I used this art piece that I had custom framed, and the frame actually costs more than the art piece itself. But look at it, it's so beautiful, right? So I pulled the colors from the art piece in order to inspire the design of the space. I don't like a whole lot of things on the bed, you know, feng shui wise. You never want to have anything hung behind your bed because symbolically it always means something can fall on top of you. So if you're thinking of hanging something on your bed, behind the bed, try to hang it on the side of the bed, or at least get that baby like totally secure with studs and an anchor onto the walls so that you don't have to worry about anything falling down on you. For me, it's still a little bit plain in here. You know, I love color, I love pattern, which is why I feel as though once I choose that wallpaper, it's gonna add so much visual interest and like a visual impact on the walls that I don't have to decorate it. I don't have to put anything on the walls to make it feel like richer and fuller, which is what I love. If you're watching this in real time, it's 2025. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that accent walls, they're out. I almost don't even want to say accent walls were never in, okay? Sometimes I like to open up my home for like your advice, right? Like the wallpaper. Can I just wallpaper this one single wall and call it a day? Sure, if I was lazy and if I wanted people to come in here and feel like it was a mistake or I ran out of money or I ran out of material. So if you're going to paint an accent in your space, think about the fifth wall in design, which is the ceiling, okay? We always talk about 4 walls. Don't neglect the 5th wall. If you want to add a statement, add visual impact, and it's just one surface, try the ceiling, not the wall behind your bed. This is probably my favorite furniture piece in the entire house, and this is why. When I was going to design school, I was a young buck, you know, in my 20s, fresh out of university for psychology. I'm like, you know what? I'm not meant to become a psychologist. I'm gonna go to design school. And my now husband, then boyfriend, actually bought this for me, okay? I came home from school one day and we had gone out shopping the weekend before and we saw it at like a discount store and I thought, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It was just like, it's very cheap, like $100. And then I came home from school one day and he had carried this up to the second story of my home or my studio. I was living in my mom's house. And this armoire was like in the center of my room. And I swear, I was like, put a ring on it, honey. I'm gonna marry this guy right now. And I still have it and I love it. And it holds, I'll show you. I usually don't like to show you, but I'll show you. My kids' books, my purses, which typically doesn't look like this, and linens. So, you know, functional, function first, sentiment second. Okay, we are heading into the ensuite. Ta-da! You guys, when I bought this house, I had no money, okay? I was broke. But you know what I did do? The very first things, one of the very first things that I did was budget for this flooring material. It ain't cheap. We've got marble on granite, on more marble and travertine. When you have luxury finishes in a space, it really just elevates the entire look. So no matter what cheap finish you slap on your walls, just like plain old paint, one solid color, it is going to feel luxurious and elevated. And not only that, it is such a statement floor and I love it. The previous design did not look like this at all. It was just like a lot of really dated mosaic tiles in here. And mosaic is just not there. They had mosaic here, mosaic here, mosaic. I kind of blasted everything out and the only thing that I kept was the shower stall. Now this is a 1955 build. I have to tell you, they were really smart with their finishing material. This is Emperador Brown marble. This marble is not only a timeless marble, but it's a natural stone, so it never goes out of style. I actually used this stone to inspire the floor pattern. I knew that I kind of wanted the central flooring to have that same Emperador Brown. And this is before I knew what my aesthetic was gonna be, okay? I had a vision. And I had that vision executed. And then everything else was kind of layered right on top of that. So we kept this shower. I knocked out this entire vanity. I brought in a new vessel sink. I painted this cabinet. It was just like this really basic bland white. I have some of these IKEA cabinets that I put in the space as well. And in order for it to feel like a built-in, almost something that looks like you custom made it for the space, I color drenched that with the same lichen sage green that's on the wall. So everything kind of looks like a built-in, even though it's just IKEA. So before, the bathroom didn't look like this. You know, I kind of shifted the door because it was better for Feng Shui. And then there was like two huge wardrobes right here. 1955 build. Clearly you need a closet space and that's what they had in here. So you're probably wondering if you took out these wardrobes and you put a vanity in here instead, now where did your closet go? Stay tuned. I had this old secretary desk and I was using this actually as my writing desk. And when I moved into this house, I just thought I wanted a statement here. I wanted space for me to not only put on my makeup, but I actually wanted another space for me to like do my writing. So I just thought that this was so apropos. This is a brand new piece. I have a mirror. It's actually a mirror, okay? But we also have another mirror that's across from me on the vanity side. So Feng Shui guides against infinity mirrors. That is when you have a mirror that's facing a mirror and that reflection is like bouncing back and forth. That's just too much energy. The energy gets confused. Not only does it get confused, but it's also bouncing around a lot of negativity because of the influx of all this energy. So a quick tip, if you have that condition, is to, you can, cover it with a scarf, a towel. But if you want something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, try layering it with another statement piece of artwork. I actually just picked this up and I found it on consignment. It was like less than $50, which is where I love to find my art pieces. I always thrift them, I go vintage, I go antiques, and I always look for secondhand. And I love it, Doesn't she kind of look like me, like on a good day? A day where like I actually put on makeup. I just had these put in. Isn't that cool? Look, it's called No Drill Blinds. It literally took me less than 2 minutes to install these blinds myself, and I really love it because it has this William Morris print on it, which I'm obsessed with. I actually love any pattern and print that has like that floral fauna vibe. You can see there's a whole lot of plants in here. So I want to bring in the outdoors, of course. So if you want to have that like biophilic love of design, that nature feeling, always look for patterns with like foliage in it. This one has birds. It has, I think this one's Strawberry Thief. So that little bird is like stealing that strawberry. It's just so charming. It's darling. One of my favorite home design tips is to buy what you love. I know you hear that a lot. When I started design school, I remember one of my design teachers was like, buy well, cry once. And I didn't understand that. You know, I was young, I was broke, right? I'm a college student. So as I started, you know, saving up a little bit of money and I started shopping, mostly vintage thrift, because that's what I could afford, I just thought, I get it, you know, buy what you love. Buy well, cry once. If you save a little bit of money, you spend it on this like big budget or even like statement item, no matter how your tastes change, no matter how your style evolves, and once you move from place to place, you will always carve out a very special spot for this well-beloved item that you might have collected like decades ago. Okay, I'm gonna take you to the guest bathroom. The first thing you'll notice is all of the artwork on the walls. This is the room that has the highest ceiling in the entire house. It is lit with all of these really beautiful windows, and I have to say, like architecturally, this is probably one of the most beautiful rooms in the home. Not only for the vaulted ceilings, which I have wallpapered. I actually wallpapered that myself. I climbed on this 25-foot ladder and I wallpapered that, and then we started working from the top down. The entire walls was all black and white checker. The floors was all black and white checker. And I just thought, holy moly, even though checker print was having like its moment 2 years ago, that's just not my vibe, okay? I love print, I love pattern, I love color, but black and white checkerboard was just not the ticket. So one of the first things I did was I painted over all of the tile myself. Why did I do that instead of just blasting out the old tile? Well, number one, I'm cheap, okay? I was broke. I did not want to shell out. I actually got an estimate for the tile renovation just to kind of like have them demo it and re-put up new tile. And new tile alone for this tiny little bathroom, walls and floors was like $7,000. I was like, I could do this myself, and I did, actually. I put in all of the new faucets myself. This is a freestanding piece, which I love. It has this like glossy red acrylic with these brass handles, which is really pretty. So we've got this brass, you know, finish going on. So I've echoed that with the wall sconce, the chandelier, and also when you look down, I just knew that I wanted like a very vintage inspired space in here. I love like the look of encaustic cement tiles, but I knew that I wasn't going to demo the bathroom. So after I had my first daughter, in the wee hours of the night, after I was finished nursing, on my hands and feet, I actually stenciled and hand painted right over the existing tile that you see on the floors. So a designer's tip for you, if you're short on budget, always look for DIY. You know, there are so many YouTube videos out there that you can learn how to paint your shower tile, repaint old tile on the floor for like less than 5 minutes and for under $25, you know? A $7,000 estimate, this entire bathroom, including all of the artwork that I actually thrifted, cost me, I wanna say, less than $3,000 for finishes, materials, labor, and a DIY. Like none of this looked like this at the beginning, and I did it all myself, and I'm very, very proud of me. Okay, so let's head into the guest room. Actually, before we head in there, I just want you to take an opportunity to not only decorate your hallway, but to come up with a very simple design move. You know, I have a huge white wall here, and I know the natural inclination is to be like, oh, you know what, I have this blank white space. I just want to fill it up with something. But you know, less is more sometimes. I mean, coming from a maximalist, that's almost like an oxymoron. But in this case, less really is more, because I have these baby pictures, and you know, my kids and myself is never going to be this young again. I want to cherish this time, cherish this moment. I'm very sentimental, okay? So you'll see there's a lot of decor items that I've had over the decades, but there's also like artwork or photography that really just elicits a memory. And I love that. Sometimes I stand here for like a minute. I can have a coffee or a cocktail, and I just stare at these pictures, and it just brings me back to that time. Brings me back to that time before I had kids and I had dogs. I had a bunch of rescues. I loved my dogs before my kids, clearly. I've seen them, they've seen me through like decades and decades of just memories. And this is like my little moment to really commemorate them. I actually just picked these up too. These are vintage lithographs that I found at a consignment store for less than $50 a piece. Originally, I kind of like saw it from like across the room, you know, our eyes locked and we met. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I love the color. This is so beautiful. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lithograph of the place that I was born, New Orleans, when I was born in the 80s. Don't tell anyone that. We are now in the girls' room / guest room. This used to be my home office, and when I was pregnant with Kamari, my first daughter, I wiped away the entire home office. I gave it a fresh coat of this really beautiful, almost like a lime wash, but it's not, okay? It is a budget, almost like the broke girl's guide to lime washing. I had my painter actually just glaze the walls with like a tiny little sample pot of paint. He added glaze to it, and he was able to model it in the way where it looks like it's lime wash. And the reason I did this was because I did not want to commit to the price tag of lime wash. You know, a gallon of lime wash could cost you $75, sometimes $100 to finish like one room like this. I was able to do this for less than $10, okay? Not the labor, just the material. So we got this really beautiful, almost like a terracotta finish on the walls. And look at the contrasting trim, okay? This is the actual paint color with glaze. So you add glaze into this paint color and you're able to create something like this. It's almost like a softer wash of the exact same palette. So that palette kind of inspired the entire vibe of this space. This niche I cut out, this walk-in closet I cut out as well, because I wanted this moment. This used to be my home office, so my desk was right there, and I had cut out this niche with no cabinets, and I put my wedding dress in here because I just wanted like this fashion moment. And then once I had the girls, I was like, dude, we need storage, okay? So I kind of demoed that idea, and then we did built-ins here, which kind of looks like it was here all along. So always think about not only your design intent, but to pick materials and finishes that look like they're inherent with the original design of the house. That's what's gonna make it feel a little bit more timeless and classic. Kind of echoed the same thing on the interior of the door. So if you're ever wondering, you know, in the interior of the space, what color should my door be when the common areas are another color? It's really easy tip. Just paint the thickness and the inside, and then leave the outside the color of the common areas. This is a Murano glass lamp. It's antique. You wanna know how much it costs? It costs more than this entire room put together. It's like $3,500 for a pair of these vintage lamps. But I didn't buy it. I actually won it in a giveaway. So anytime you see like a giveaway, enter it, okay? If you don't enter, you don't win. But if you do enter and you win, look what you get. $3,500 Murano glass lamps. That is like the centerpiece of this entire girls' room. I love this, guy. It's so beautiful. I love William Morris prints. I gotta tell you, I probably have one William Morris print in every single room. Even though this house is mid-century, I have a love of like arts and crafts, right? Like all the flora, the fauna. And look at their pillows, you know, they're reversible. Isn't this cute? So this is kind of like the design of the space. The girls don't sleep here. This is a guest room. Grandma comes to visit. She usually stays for like 1 or 2 weeks at a time. So this space is almost just like a landing zone for their clothes, their toys, and some of their books, which I love. I have books in pretty much every single room of the home because I love that they're kind of able to just grab the books, sit here, and just read for hours. Artwork is one of those things that for me, it's like if it doesn't have sentimental value, then it has to do something. It has to elicit some sort of response, right? These are my children's DIY paintings, you know, watercolor, but I also really love that watercolor vibe. So I found this art piece secondhand as well as another consignment store. And I love how it really pulls in all of the colors on the wall. This was a very happy accident. Like this room was designed before I found this art piece. So when I was out shopping, I found it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the one. It fits with the space so perfectly. But if you're ever like stuck and struggling with trying to figure out a cohesive color palette or even where to begin, look for an art piece you love. Look for like a fabric you love, even like a pillow that has a print that you absolutely are obsessed with, and then you can pull those colors and then create the statement for your room. I have a background in psychology. I actually went to undergrad for psych. I thought I was gonna be a like marriage and family counselor. Little did I know, 2 decades later, I actually would become a therapist, but wearing an interior designer's hat. I mean, I cannot tell you how many homes I've designed for families, couples, and you're really trying to carve out a home for them. It's a very personal process. So for me, it's all about creating a space that not only looks beautiful, but it really just inspires the people that live within it. This is my husband's office. This is a mid-century desk that I purchased on Craigslist for like $150. We've had this guy since we moved into the house. I felt like, the desk was one of the first things I had to buy for my husband. Clearly, it's his home office. But this is a recent acquisition. This is from Thomasville. And I love it because look at the two-tone detailing. Okay, it has some of that like medium grain wood that almost matches the desk. This is like a happy accident, but I love it. It kind of like, it's a fresh vibe. It feels like just very stately in this space. So we have these symmetrical bookshelves. This is from IKEA. I mean, it was such an inexpensive piece, and I kind of piecemealed it together because I knew that he needed a closet space in here, and also a place for him to house all of his shoes. He's a little bit of a fashion file, okay, just as I am. So you'll see all of his Kobe's on the bottom. He doesn't, he's not a designer by any means. So clearly I designed this space. He doesn't have a whole lot of artwork in here, but he does love his Kobe Bryant, okay? You cannot pull the man away from his Kobe. So the previous homeowners actually had this entire back of house walled off. When I came to look at the house, I actually missed this entire wing and I still bought the house, okay? Like that's how much I love the house. I didn't even know that it existed because they had a wall here. So when I came into the house, I went through the other side of the opening and here's what's behind door number 1. His closet, which I actually just carved out of this space. I have a little bit of a spillage right here, but if you look up, those vaulted ceilings carry on through the entire home. So I love that. That's what I'm talking about. Really investing in a home and the architectural integrity and the detailing that you love, because that's really going to carry your design through. This is more spillage. He has a superfluous amount of clothes. And you know what? So do I. So much, in fact, that I actually took out a functional shower because I needed more room for all of my long gowns, okay? So this entire space, I imagine, I'm gonna knock it all out. Okay, we're gonna figure out something to do with all of my long gowns, but I kind of just want like another ensuite in here. I feel like there's an opportunity to do like a Jack and Jill, but I'm not there yet. I'm still in concept phase. So we're creatively trying to figure this out because this is a pièce de résistance, okay? This is kind of one of those spaces where, like, I could die here. This is my walk-in closet. Because you remember, I had demoed those built-ins wardrobes from the previous ensuite. Because literally, they probably only had like this much space. And this is just for my jackets alone. I know, I live in Southern California. Is it ever this cold? No. But it's called fashion, honey, okay? So that's what we're all about over here. Fashion is my first love. I began, to dabble in fashion way before I did with interiors because it was affordable, right? You go to a thrift store, you can grab like a garment for like less than a couple bucks, but I need to shell out at least $50 for a cabinet, which is what I did over here. Okay, I was 19 years old. I remember it fondly. I went to the Salvation Army and I fell in love with this lacquered piece. It's like an antique Chinese lacquered cabinet and I barely had any money. So it was like everything I saved up, I just bought furniture. I was so young, I didn't even have my own space, but I just knew that I had love for design at such a young age. So this bed was actually moved from the guest room into this space because I thought I needed another room. Now that mom stays here, if mom stays here, I also need spillage for a guest room. So I was able to put a full-size bed in here and carve out this entire built-in. This is all done from Home Depot, like DIY. So I bought all of these cabinets. I installed all of these shelves myself. And then I had my carpenter run a new soffit so that I was able to put in air conditioning back here. So some of these older homes, you really just have to deal with the functionality of it first, right? So before, the HVAC system only heated and cooled the front side of the house. So this entire back of house area was really hot. So we budgeted for HVAC as well. I put in all of the new lights. Obviously the beams were here. I carved this out so that I could put all of my bags, my backstock. If you look up, that's actually my wedding headdress. So when you're thinking of decorative items, I feel like it's not just about decor. It should really speak to your aesthetic, your style, and your home should really tell your story. You know, who you are, where you've been, and really where you hope to go. Who I am is a designer. Who I've been is like, a fashion file, someone who's just obsessed with fashion. And where I hope to go is to have this like empire that's not only, fashion and design related, but something that has to do with like mommy lifestyle as well, which is exactly the phase that I'm in right now. I have this opportunity to add more storage here, kind of like a symmetrical version of what's happening on this side. But what's important to me is to get a really beautiful mirror in this space. I'm gonna sacrifice function for aesthetics in this case because this was also one of those first purchases when I started out my design career. I purchased this for a client, the same client who I bought back the jade sideboard. I bought back this mirror. I originally found this mirror on Craigslist. I know I say Craigslist a lot. Craigslist back then is like Facebook Marketplace today. So for some of you young bucks, that's where everyone was shopping back then. Craigslist, eBay, I bought it for $500 on Craigslist. Right now, if I'm looking for a designer piece like this, it's probably gonna retail for about $3,000 or $4,000. So that was such a score, which is why it's so important to follow the design. This is actually the only room in the house that can hold this tall of a mirror. There's no other room. So naturally, this room had to become my closet. I just installed this. I also came from retail. So before I did interior design, I was actually managing like retail stores in the mall. So I love a retail moment. I feel like anytime you can display your items with like a very stylish, aesthetic kind of, I want it to look like a retail store, to come in here and feel like, oh, this is like the latest bag. Oh, these are, the tops that I want to wear this season. So you want to highlight some of your favorite statement pieces, and then it becomes like an entire, visual statement in itself. IKEA, gotta love IKEA. I hacked Billy bookcases. I've had this for almost 20 years. And this is what it holds. All of my shoes. This is the black side, okay? And then we've got like a really cute, colorful side over here. And then some of my heels, like, let's get real, okay? I don't remember the last time I wore heels. Okay, we're talking function here, people. Okay, every nook and cranny needs to function. You see what's happening up there? It is backstock storage for all of my luggages, because luggages can also be decorative home decor. This is my garden. I love it out here. Do you hear that? Let's take a moment of silence and hear that bird song. I open my windows and this is what I hear every single morning, and I'm like obsessed. When we first bought the house, the previous homeowners were so freaking smart. You see that big tree out there? This tree blooms pink for 2 months out of the entire year, and that's when they sold it, and that's what sold me on this house. I kid you not, before I bought this home, this is my first home, this is what I was manifesting. I told the universe I wanted a home with a big pink tree and a lot of windows. I mean, it felt like a tall order. And so when we found this home, I literally was like, stop, shut the front door. This is it, you guys. Look at this courtyard. It didn't look like this. None of these plants were here. I planted them all myself. I cultivated over 10 years worth of time. And every time I come out here, I can remember when I planted, that tree, when I planted that rose bush, when I, invested in the artificial turf that you see right now. Like, this is probably one of the best investments we made for this home. Originally, it had grass here, but because we have this really huge melaleuca in the middle of the entire courtyard, there's also a lot of shade. So when you get patches of shade and some like really harsh light, the grass just doesn't grow evenly. So I used to also get a lot of mosquitoes here because we would overwater some areas, and then we invested in artificial turf. So it wasn't cheap, okay? It actually, cost me, I want to say like $5,000 for 500 square feet of space, but we also had the sprinklers re-irrigated, and it's kind of dripping to my perimeter as well. So the investment is not just an investment in the turf, but you also have to think about investing in livable space, livable square footage. This tacked on an extra like 500-600 square feet worth of living space. So imagine how much more space you get, how much more living space you get when you use every single square inch of your house. But the only way that you're able to fully enjoy it is with really beautiful furniture. So I gotta tell you, Thomasville came through again, you guys. This garden set is so comfy. Okay, this is why. I sit here. My daughters kind of play through this middle sofa, and then my husband's kind of on the other side. So usually we'll, bring our drinks out here, and we bring the speakers. I have speakers set up out here as well. We blast on the music, and the girls are playing. During the summer when it's a little bit hotter, I'll kind of turn on the sprinklers and have like all of these like water toys out here for them, and they love it, and I love it. It's just like so beautiful. It's such a vibe, and it just feels like, I'm home. Home is a space that I aspire to rise up to greet you. I stole that from Oprah. I watched this episode where she did like this home design, and I just thought, I love that. I love that idea of just having a home that is a sanctuary. You walk in your space and immediately all your troubles just melt away. I want to create a space not just for myself, but for my growing daughters. I want them to feel inspired. I want them to have a beautiful home and not only be able to create that really nurtures and nourishes them growing up.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.